Welcome to Trauma Undone. I am your host, Natasha Phillips, and today we have with us an incredible person who I recently got to meet, and I am so excited to have him on the couch. It is Desi Valentine, a shamanic practitioner. Desi, we are so happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
So Desi, I want to know, how did you become a shaman?
So, it's a very, very, very involved and beautiful story. I started studying the mystic arts when I was 10 years old. So when I was told that magic didn't exist, as you are when you're very young, I just knew that there was more going on behind the scenes than I could see. I was like, there's something going on. I know that magic is existing somewhere, and I ultimately went to go and find it in the yellow pages.
In the yellow pages?
Yes, I did.
Okay, talk about that. Like, you found magic in the yellow pages.
That's at that time. That was how you found things.
Exactly.
That was like the directory. So I was like, okay, I know that magic exists. So I'm gonna very much 10-year-old logic. But I found a magic metaphysical supply store in Covent Garden in London, and I knew it. It was something in my heart that was like, that's it. I know that's what it is. So I took it upon myself and I went to this very beautiful and magic store that still exists in Covent Garden as well. And in that space they had crystals and candles and amulets and talismans and interesting books and interesting people. And I just at that moment knew that I knew it. I knew that magic existed, and got a chance to start to study these different ways, started studying earth magic, Wiccan magic, understanding the phases of the moon and how much natural energy there is for us to plug into and to harness.
That is an incredible story. I was just picturing myself also my favorite place to go when I was a kid, to go to one of those little stores and just look at all the things and, look at the tarot cards and pick up all that stuff and just feel connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how can you use this magical practice to help heal trauma?
Well, the ancient wisdom of this beautiful medicine, I work with and without medicine, plant medicine, predominantly working with psilocybin. For those of you that don't know, that's sacred mushroom medicine, also known as magic mushrooms. But there's a deep, deep, deep ancestral lineage of this medicine and ways to bring about neuroplasticity in the mind, somatic release and understanding in the body and the system and the energy centers, the chakras. We're able to bring peace and equilibrium to a lot of deep trauma, complex PTSD, all of these different myriad of emotional and neurological conditions.
And how does that all come about? Because, you hear the stories, people go down to South America and they do these experiences and they come out a new person. Mm-hmm. How does that work? How does it, in that time, you can go so into yourself and come out different on the other side? It sounds impossible.
Well, the brain and the body, we're not always working in harmony with each other. And when it comes to trauma in particular, a lot of the time the brain will try and protect you from re-experiencing the traumatic things that have happened to you. So there's a number of different ways that can express, but the mind has deemed these particular places within the psyche as very unsafe to go. What we end up dealing with is the side effects of what that can be. So addiction, compulsion, depression, unstable mood, and emotional conditions in these ways. And just dealing with the symptoms in themselves is what the Western approach usually takes. So it's like, okay, anti-anxiety medications or anti-depression medications and these different kind of ways to treat the symptoms. But with the medicinal plant medicine approach, there's a way to get to the actual root of what's going on without being re-traumatized by it. We get to witness what those places are and be able to understand that there's something to learn and there's something to expand within that place. So it's not ultimately they're a new person, but it's they're a more in tune and aligned, honest version with themselves, and all of the parts of themselves are more integrated.
So I'm just trying to understand this. So when you experience trauma, I know this from the small research that I have done, your brain changes.
Yes.
And often you are, either you are stuck in, that traumatic experience and living in survival mode, or you can regain the plasticity and move around, but you still have that part of your brain that doesn't allow you to completely heal. And is that where the medicine comes in and helps you to really observe what happened and see the steps as to how you got into that trauma and heal that? I just want to clarify.
Oh, absolutely. That's such a good question. It's ultimately the trauma in itself isn't actually the thing that causes the distortion. It's more, especially when it comes to complex, like long-term traumatic events, it's more of the fact that it's something that you couldn't control that end up happening to you, and the parts being in a reactive mindset to that. So ultimately, being able to accept, understand, and move past what that trauma is instead of being stuck in that. You're ultimately stuck in, it's like being frozen in time, being frozen.
So you get stuck in the reaction.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So being able to witness and be present to what it was, love the parts of yourself that were really hurt within that. There's always an opportunity to apply love to those parts, because the shame piece is one of the biggest causes of suffering, is the shame and the blame within yourself. It's like, okay, well, like, I wish with everything that I had that it didn't happen. And that is ultimately where the suffering really happens, because you have to understand that it happened for a reason, and there is not a version of you that doesn't deserve to be loved and held and understood from that place.
That's so hard, I think. It's so hard. There is so much shame. And it's so hard to look at that and love that part. So how do you do that?
It's a practice, my love. It's a practice. It's not a thing that we do. We were having a conversation a little earlier on about the idea of the medicine being the silver bullet that, everything's fine. I'm a new person now. Yay. It's like, yes, there's an aspect of these peak experiences really opening up and you being able to see what's possible. Beautiful. But it's showing up on the daily that is really where the big movement happens. It's showing up in gratitude, in meditation, in prayer, breath work, connecting with the present moment. All of those pieces are the bit, it's like bit by bit, day by day, even if it's 10 minutes a day, but those 10 minutes are non-negotiable. Those 10 minutes are the things that you're like, okay, I'm dedicating this time to taking care of myself and to my well-being, me being well. It's not just a peak experience in a medicine ceremony and everything. It's like, no, like, how do you show up for yourself every day?
So that is really hard for some people who have had trauma.
Yes.
It's that commitment to do something daily, or even just to say, okay, I am going to start to learn or acknowledge that I need to possibly love myself at some point. I don't even want to say you have to do it, but even just the acknowledgement. So what do you recommend that people do that can really open up that door to start to let that love in, that self-love in?
That's such a great question too. There are a number of ways. I think connecting with nature is one of the ways that I would highly recommend, especially for people that they have resistant parts of themselves to taking the steps towards self-care and doing meditation and breath work or any of these other things. But simply go for a walk. Simply put your bare feet in the grass, and that's it. Like, start there. Start with baby steps. And one thing I would really definitely highly, highly, highly recommend is when you feel the resistance, or where you feel that moment where you're like, oh, I should do this thing, but like I can't do it, and I feel like you're forcing yourself, just place your hands on your higher heart chakra right here and just take 3 breaths. What you can change, how much of a state change you can create with 3 breaths, and within those breaths to say, whatever I choose to do, I'm at peace with it. That's it. Because that shame, the blame, the force, like, I know I should do this thing, but I'm not doing it. To be able to dispel that, to disempower that loop, just take 3 breaths, and moment to moment, that's it. Okay, maybe you don't feel like doing it right now, but let's have 3 breaths and let's see how we feel. Okay, I feel like, okay, I can go for a walk. I can go for a walk. I can do that. Okay, go for a walk and see how you feel then. Just be loving, compassionate, and patient with yourself. We're not in a rush to get anywhere. That's a really important piece.
That's such a good thing that you just said, because I feel like that the should, the I must, but I'm not, all of that cycle continues to allow one to abuse themselves and just completely spiral down. So by just taking that moment and stopping that is already changing your path in the opposite, in a different direction.
Absolutely. Really. And the simple approaches, just make it as simple and accessible as you possibly can in a grounded way, and just giving the person the opportunity to just offer yourself some kindness. And I know that it seems like simple, but for a lot of people, as you know, that's a huge mountain. So what can you do in these little micro moments just to be like, okay, well, at least I did that. Like, okay, took 3 breaths, even if that's all you did for the whole day, and you get back into bed or do whatever it is that you're going to do. But it's like, okay, giving yourself that opportunity to be kind and patient with yourself.
It's also the sense of achievement, like I did that.
Yes, positive reinforcement in that way.
So what does your daily practice look like?
Oh, okay. So for me, breath work has been the most transformative and powerful modality that I've experienced to date. And over the years, I've worked with many different medicines, many different practitioners, many different modalities, many different ways and approaches. And breath has been the one thing that it's like consistently, you can traverse to a different dimension of reality using just your breath. When it comes to bringing a life into this world through pregnancy, through birthing, through the birth canal, breath is literally the most important thing to bring a life into this world. So Lamar's class is breath work. It's teaching you to understand the breath and how powerful the breath is. In Chinese medicine, breath is qi, it's life force, it's energy. So For me, breathwork each day, meditation each day. I have a gratitude practice of just writing down 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for. Could be as big or as little as they are. I'm grateful for these shoes, or I'm grateful for how deeply I love myself. It can be any myriad of those things. There's a sacred embodiment practice that I do called the Armani method. That's sacred geometry, shapes, and embodiment using the voice. Quantum manifestation. I've got a number of different things, but they're the main things, and communing with nature for me as well. I go to a park each day and do my practices there. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So you've been on this journey since you were so young.
Yes.
Did it help you avoid trauma?
No, definitely not. Yeah, I experienced trauma when I was very young. I was around 8 or 9 years old, and I experienced sexual trauma from a relative of mine. So it definitely did not help me avoid it, but ultimately gave me the tools to be able to, when the time came, I actually suppressed a lot of those memories for my own safety. My own brain did exactly that. And when I was truly ready to face and see and look at all of it, the memories came forward, and I was able to look at them and to witness them and to understand them, and to really understand that it was a vital part of my journey to be a practitioner, to be a healer the way that I am, to work with medicine, to work with people with trauma. Is I can understand it because I've ultimately been there and been able to come out the other side of it and love every part of myself, including the memories of deep trauma.
So when you were younger and this happened, I want to ask you a few questions, but do you think that's what led you to discover magic?
Oh, wow. I never even put the two of those things together. Okay, you're blowing my mind right now because I'd never put those two things together. Let me feel into it. Yes, I think that there's a real truth that's there. I know that I was reaching for something. There was something that I was like, okay, I know that there's more than just this. And being such a young person at that time, I had my own secret world that was kind of going on, including the trauma, including what this mystical life was. So it gave me some solace for sure, and understanding that even in my loneliness of my trauma, or the isolation of my trauma, I was still able to find this way of connecting through these books, with the elements. I didn't feel alone in that.
So you said that you didn't remember a lot of it. Did you have a memory that the sexual abuse happened, but you didn't remember the details? Can you explain that a little bit?
Of course. For me, I had just started a brand new relationship, and I was in a meditation, and it was almost like, it hit me like a lightning strike. It was all of a sudden, I just remembered the fact that it happened, like the fact that all of the information kind of came through at once. And it wasn't so much that at the time I didn't know that it happened or didn't remember that it happened. I had just deemed it so, that there was so much shame around it. There was so much that I willed it away, and then just simply did not look at it for maybe, 28 years, something like that. And just didn't even, like, it had never happened, truly.
So when it all came back to you, what was that like? Like, how do you deal with that, like, flood of information?
For me, I'm grateful that I had and have these tools of understanding and knowing myself, understanding and having the infrastructure of what that is, that there isn't a single part of me that isn't welcome, that isn't worthy of being loved. So when that information came to the forefront, it was because my subconscious mind and my relationship to spirit, whatever people believe in, but for me, I have a beautiful relationship with divine spirit. It was at that moment, it was like, you've got all that you need to handle what this is. It needs to be looked at. You're about to go into my first important relationship in 13 years it'd been. So for me, it was a kindness to me to look at something that may be standing in the way of me being able to connect, standing in the way of me being able to have a loving, open relationship that's honest with every part of myself, and no shame frequency living inside me, because I truly was in love and acceptance of myself.
Wow, that's beautiful. So how do you get to being truly in love and accepting oneself?
Whoa. I mean, it's, as I say, it's a practice. So for me, journaling and being able to like write out some of the things that I'd been feeling was really powerful. And then being able to write down a simple list of one thing a day that you celebrate of yourself, one thing a day that you like. And I've had clients over the years that even just finding one thing of themselves that they liked was very challenging, but we show up bit by bit, and in the work and in the time, like, as I say in my approach, you're never in a rush. We're not trying to get anywhere in any particular time. It's like, let's go. It's like, no, slow everything down. So if you can do one kind, lovely thing that you can write about yourself in the space of a month, that's a win. That's where we're at, and we meet it exactly where it's at.
So before you had this meditation and this flood of information, did you feel that you fully loved yourself completely, or was there just an aspect that was missing, and then after this, everything changed?
Oh, I mean, I'd really very much been in that work, that self-love work for maybe 6 or 7 years prior to that. So I loved and accepted every part of myself that I knew that was available at that time. And it's not just like every day I love myself. It's like, no, life is an ebb and flow. There's always going to be expansion and contraction. There's going to be challenges that bring up old parts. There's going to be moments that challenge and poke at you, or whatever it is, and you may not revert, but you remember ultimately those previous versions of yourself. And in those moments, take a few breaths. I call it the 3-breath rule. So just apply the 3-breath rule and have a look at what your body is telling you. The intelligence and the wisdom of our bodies is beyond. It's so incredible. So just being able to just be with it for that moment, 3 breaths, and say, what kind thing can I say to myself at this moment? Can I have compassion for my humanness? That I'm like, yes, I'm still human. I'm still a human being having a human experience. And you might deem it as silly, you might deem it as really deep and profound, but whatever it is, like, there's no judgment that's applied to that. Just looking at it.
So how do you not judge yourself?
That's a practice too, my love. That's a practice too. It's not a thing that you just all of a sudden do overnight. It's these beautiful practices that you do. This is why you show up each day and dedicate your meditation that day to, I'm just going to bathe myself in love. That's it. And I'm going to sit here, and even if it's uncomfortable, which a lot of growth is uncomfortable, that's just the reality of what it is. And being able to be compassionate and patient with that uncomfortability. Can you sit square in the middle of that uncomfortable thing and still be like, okay, I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of this. Okay, I'm just going to take a few more breaths, moment to moment. Take one more breath. Maybe do 1 more minute on the timer. Okay, okay, I made it to 30 seconds. I'm going to add another minute. Bit by bit. That's the key to massive growth, is in the moment to moment.
So does going on a journey enhance the day-by-day practice? And does the day-by-day practice enhance the journey?
Amen to both of those things, for sure. From my perspective, the peak experience of the journey is ultimately showing you what's possible. It's the day-to-day it's finding the bliss and the beauty in the mundane. Yeah, you're still gonna have to go to work. Yeah, you're still gonna have to take out the trash. Yes, you're still gonna have to pay bills and pay your taxes and do whatever. Like, that's not the thing that goes away. But can you find some little bit of joy or bliss or peace in whatever shows itself to you? That the medicine shows us what's possible in that respect, because there's bliss available in every minute. There is. We can change our state in any moment. And it is, once again, showing up each day with that possibility. So yes, the medicine opens it up for us in this beautiful way. And then it's up to us to kind of execute and carry that forward into the rest of our lives.
So there's a lot of different types of plant medicine. And why did you choose psilocybin? Or do you use a variety?
Or I serve a number of different medicines, but the mushroom medicine absolutely chose me. It was not a thing I was like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, I think I'll do it. Like, no. It was a profound calling that through a number of, I'll give you the abridged version, but through a friend, they had started growing and cultivating mushroom medicine. I had really been deepening in my own intuitive gifts and my pranic healing training and breathwork training and all of the things that I had done in my education. And the timing worked perfectly for us to work together, to go into a space. And in that, it was my own guides pointing to me and saying, I'm in the mix of this story. I'm in this person's story. So I began to start working with the medicine and understanding it. They asked me to be a spiritual guide for them. And I was like, okay, that feels right. When I feel it into my body, I'm like, yeah, okay, this feels like the right thing. And then did my very first heroic deep dive journey with the medicine. And it was in that I had my first egoic death. I had my very first dissolution of everything that I had known myself to be, and was shown from this medicine that I am to be a practitioner of this, to serve this medicine. I am to steward this medicine to make sure that people get well-intentioned, beautiful, well-harvested medicine out in the world. And instead of people maybe drinking themselves into oblivion, maybe they can have an intentional, very wise medicine that can be applied in social situations and for deep transformational healing as well. So in that moment, I was shown my teacher, my shamanic practitioner teacher, and shown that path. So it was like, okay, that old version of me had to die a death for me to be reborn and on a new trajectory and a new path with this new medicine.
And how did you become a shaman?
Deep training. So for me, I identify myself as a shamanic practitioner.
Okay.
A shaman, I would say, would come from a specific lineage.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying that, because I didn't know the difference.
Of course. And the role of shaman is sacred in that way and from these traditions. So I wouldn't for me personally. It doesn't feel like it's the right fit for me, but I am a shamanic practitioner. Um, and I went into a deep transformational container of training with an incredible medicine woman, another shamanic practitioner, transformational coach and guide, one of the most profound people I've ever known. And we worked together over the course of 6 months, one-on-one, being shown the techniques, being shown, and it facilitated myself through journeys. And she was able to take all of the other modalities and study and things that I had done, my clairvoyance and intuition and mediumship, my work with crystals and essential oils. I have a product line of healing and transformational sprays and products, and as well as my pranic healing training, Reiki training, all of these other pieces, and bring it together into one cohesive way of being able to meet people exactly where they're at. So whoever you are, wherever you are in your development or your evolution and your healing and your journey, I'm able to come at it from a number of different points of view and perspectives to be able to support you in whatever you need.
So what has been your most transformational, the most transformation you've seen in somebody?
Ooh, I mean, there's so many people. One person in particular comes to mind, and this person had experienced extreme complex PTSD, neglect, abuse, trauma since they were very, very young, got abandoned by their family members, and had been in the work of themselves, doing the meditation, the breath work, the yoga, ended up becoming a yoga practitioner, but still was very much plagued, would have nightmares, wouldn't be able to sleep, was in a constant state of fight or flight in their system, still very much re-traumatized, and even wasn't able to speak at any volume that was able to really be understood. It was still very much experiencing the trauma in their system. And we, in our work together, we were able to bring them to the most blissful, open, happy state. And I quote them, I am not experiencing PTSD anymore. Just was able to navigate what that is, understand what it is, and move through it in a way that they had never experienced before and didn't even think it was possible. Yeah, probably one of the best days of my life to hear and receive that after somebody had been suffering so intensely.
So for somebody who's hearing this for the first time, that these things are possible, but you hear the stories, magic mushrooms, it's a drug, it's a this, like how would you address that with somebody who's only, heard some crazy stories and now hearing that there's this possibility to use this medicine to heal?
Well, it's ultimately finding what is you're comfortable with. For somebody like myself, I'm coming at it from more of a mystical point of view, coming at it from a somatic point of view, and that might not be the thing that works for you. You want to be in a doctor's office and be with a doctor that's coming at it from the medicinal point of view, from that Western perspective. It's ultimately knowing that we're part of a true psychedelic revolution. The brightest minds in the whole world are having unexplainable mystical experiences working with plant medicine, working with psychedelics, and understanding that there is so much more to our consciousness. So yes, of course, it extends to the psychological and all of these breakthroughs that are available. And what it is for the human spirit, the human psyche, the understanding of our mind, body, spirit connection. So there's going to be more and more of this available. Like, the world of science and spirit has never been as closely interlinked as they are right now. There's the data. There's Johns Hopkins that are doing they've dedicated an entire department to the expansion of psychedelics and of consciousness and what that is. That's one of the number one medical centers in the entire world. So it's not as fringe or as off the cuff as it used to be. It's now being looked at and being backed up by the science and the data that really make people feel a lot more comfortable knowing this. Okay, like a doctor has these are the results they've seen, and with of all throughout time, psychedelics are still the number one result for treatment resistant PTSD, depression, and trauma. There's been nothing that has gotten results like it. So we've got the data. So it's not a pipe dream anymore. It's really stepping into a fully well-rounded revolution of these medicines.
That's incredible. I didn't know all the science. I know that people are researching it now, but I didn't know that all the science around that. So when someone goes into this journey and they see their potential, how do they now live into it?
So once again, I feel like I'm repeating myself a little bit, but it is in the daily. It is being able to, capture the essence of what that is. So the integration part of medicine work and these ceremonies, these journeys, is just as important, if not more important, than the actual peak experience itself. So being able to have somebody like myself that will give you tools, exercises that are going to be able to help you. Like, okay, how do I isolate what that feeling of freedom or bliss or expansion or peace or balance, harmony, any of these things that you'd not been able to get to, and be able to, like, okay, so when I go into a breath work session, I'm able to go back to and touch on some of those places I've been able to get to in ceremony. So yes, using these tools, these techniques to be able to kind of keep that energy and that frequency coming through your life and through your system after the fact.
Okay, so someone's listened to this and they want to take a step in their healing journey. What is the number one thing you recommend?
So when it comes to, there's one of the biggest resources is YouTube. Truly a free resource that you can have breath work, meditation, all of these different ways of somatic modalities. There's EFT, there's these mindful practices that are free. So Google what that is, or throw that into YouTube, like simple breathwork exercise or meditation for beginners. I personally have a self-care ceremony guide that I created for this very thing. So it was like, okay, a 7-day series, like a little program that will take you like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You do one of the practices each day, and it's just going to guide you. It's got some videos, it's got some little exercises, some writing prompts and things, just gently to be able to introduce somebody into this thing. That's a first easy step to do that. But there's a lot of resource if you just simply look.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to share today?
You've honestly asked such beautiful questions. No, really, I think more than anything else, I just want everybody to know that it's accessible to you. This healing is available to you. So however hopeless it can feel, there is always hope. There's always support. There's always something that you can do. There's always a lesson or an expansion that's available. And I just want to inspire people to keep the faith, keep the belief that healing and transformation is possible.
That's beautiful. Well, Desi, where can people find you?
So, my website is up and available. It's got my all of the things that I do and the ways that I work. You can also find me on Instagram, just at Desi Valentine. And I'm also a recording artist as well, so you can find me on Spotify under Desi Valentine too. I bring music into the space when I work too. So yeah.
That's beautiful, Desi. It's been such an honor sitting with you today. Thank you.
Such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching Trauma Undone. Let your healing begin.